Hey, friend, welcome back to Hey Wait. When I was a kid, I remember being taught how to pretend to make a ball of energy between my two hands and to imagine being able to make it bigger and smaller and to toss it back and forth. Except for me, it didn't feel like I was pretending. I really could feel a ball of energy between my hands. And since that day, I've been absolutely fascinated by the energetic level of my experience of myself, of others, the world around me, which is why I'm a little jealous of my guest today because she spent her entire adult life working with energy in a real, grounded, and medicinal way. Dr. Maria Furlano is a spiritual intuitive and a consciousness mentor who specializes in Eastern energetic medicine and nervous system regulation. For more than 25 years, she's helped conscious leaders, healers, and highly sensitive people clear, nourish, and protect their energy so they can live their purpose without burning out. She was first introduced to energy, movement, and the mind-body connection when she was just 12 years old and started training in martial arts. And then years later, after 2 years of chronic back pain, she started practicing medical Qigong. And one morning, she woke up completely pain-free. And that moment opened a lifelong exploration into how energy and emotion shape health, clarity, and intuition. Dr. Maria went on to become a physician of Chinese medicine and acupuncture, a doctor of medical Qigong, and even trained in hypnosis to better understand the subconscious side of healing. Today, she shares her embodied wisdom through the Art of Tuning In studio and through hosting the Art of Tuning In podcast. In our conversation today, Dr. Maria talks all things energy. I'm talking energetic protection, energetic fortification, energetic vampires. She also talks about how not to get energetically overwhelmed and how to tell the difference between empathy and taking on other people's energy. And because medical Qigong is an experiential practice, she guides us through a couple of different practices that can help you settle your energy. Dr. Maria is such a radiant person, and she's here to help those of us who feel everything learn to respond to the world with more steadiness and connection to yourself. And I don't know about you, but I am here for that. And if you're thinking, talking about energy is kind of not my thing, it's out of my comfort zone, but I'm also a little curious, well, then you are also exactly where you're supposed to be. And I think this is going to be really fascinating. So here is Dr. Maria Furlano. Oh, I'm just so delighted to be sitting here with you, Maria.
Oh, I'm delighted to be with you too, Jay.
It feels really easy. For the person listening, not only is Dr. Maria Furlano and like a legit medical Qigong practitioner, and we're going to get into all that, but Maria also happens to be my former neighbor. She and her lovely husband, Craig, live next door, and we get to see each other in the neighborhood. And so this feels like just a really nice, just a comfortable way to start my day. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no, thank you. I am so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to share with you. And yeah, I'm just excited to have a conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, so I want to talk energy with you
All
because
right.
yeah, right? Well, this was funny too in the context of we were neighbors and I had no idea what you did. And
And I had no idea what you did either.
yeah. And eventually a mutual friend who knows us both is like, she literally grabbed us both and was like, you two sit down, start talking. You need to know each other. So thank you, Sally, for that.
Exactly. Thank you, Sally.
Because, well, I find the orientation to the energetic level of life one of the most fascinating things. And what I didn't know until prepping to talk with you was that um, you started practicing in martial arts when you were only 12 years old. And
Mhm.
you said that you asked your parents to put you in that because you wanted to do that. So I'm curious, what how did you experience energy when you were a kid? Or like what's your first memory of having a sense of that layer of the world?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I've never been asked that before. So, first, it feels to me like I was always supposed to do that. Like I came into this lifetime knowing I was supposed to do that because it tracks back to when I was about 5 years old. And I remember watching TV, and there was martial arts on TV, and I remember specifically hearing, "Right, you're supposed to do that." And
Did
then
you
wait
have a feeling when you watched
I
it or just the
yeah, it
words?
was a feeling. It was, "You know this. This is what you're supposed to do.
Oh.
Don't
Ooh.
forget about this." And it was ama then I forgot about it, and I only remembered that years later. And then, we moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and then, when I was 12, I was at this party, and a birthday party, and a friend of mine, I heard them talking about this taekwondo class they were taking. And I said, it was like this light bulb went off, and I went over there and I said, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And they thought I was so weird because I was so pinpointed. And I left and I said to my mom, "I have to go take this class." She's like, "Okay." So we went there, and it was just an immediate connection. So the energy that I experienced, first of all, the thing that was so great for me about martial arts is that there's a lot of discipline in it. And
Mm,
so you are learning to connect fully with your body. It's not a heady practice. You're completely in your body. And so things that you might be afraid of come up, things that you feel really confident about come up, and you're constantly readjusting your energy. And you're also learning when something hurts, like when you get sore. I'm not talking about getting injured. I had a really good teacher and we didn't get injured. It was great. But you're sore and you're
mm,
tired, and how do you recover from that?
mhm,
So that part for me when I was young, it was just a very physical experience. And it wasn't until I was more in my 20s and I experienced an injury, and I started to do meditation. And it's like this happens a lot. You start physical in martial arts,
mhm,
and then you move
mhm,
more into the healing part and the energetic part and then the spiritual part. And that is actually the journey that I took. So it wasn't until I was in my 20s and 30s where I started to really understand the energetic dynamics of things and really allowed myself to feel energy.
mhm.
Does
And
make sense?
absolutely, and I'm seeing that as a potential doorway in to ask you a question, uh, because I think a lot of the people who I know who listen to this podcast are highly sensitive
Mm,
people. They are people who are sensitive emotionally, but also sensitive energetically. So this is going to be right up their alley. But I also know, like my lovely husband, Mr. Moon, people like him listen to this podcast who are like, energy, I don't get it, you know? um, so going back
yeah.
to that time in your life in your early 20s when you first became aware of that, what would you say you were feeling? Like, how would you describe
Mm.
being able to sense energetic um, states?
Yeah. So when I was so first of all, I'm a very highly sensitive person. So I grew up in that, but I didn't have any understanding of that when I was young, or, not for a long time actually. So even in my 20s, when I was sensing energy, I can feel what other people are feeling emotionally, and I can feel it sensory in my body, and I also understand, like, I get the words or the images here about how someone's feeling. And the thing with that, though, is it's great to connect with people, but it becomes very difficult because you feel so much that you start to not be able to quite distinguish what's yours and what somebody else's. And so when I would be in these situations, and I would, be with people and feeling things and sensing things, I became very, very sensitive. It kind of feels like, I always say, kind of like you're wearing your nerves on the outside
Mm.
and instead of on the inside, so everything becomes very sensitive. And so that was very difficult for me because now it's very different because you learn to separate what you're feeling and what someone else is feeling. But at the time, I might, if someone had a stomach ache, I might feel like I had a stomach ache, or I might feel bubbles, or I might just feel an overwhelming feeling. And so for me, it's very visceral, but also I'll get an image of what's happening. And sometimes before I would think, is this my image? Is this somebody else's image? Because I didn't quite understand, but I thought I'm hearing things. I'm hearing their thoughts. I really think so. But then
Mm.
you push it away. Does that make,
Sure.
so, and then what I would also find was that I would carry that with me. So sometimes it wouldn't go away. So if someone had a
Like,
stomach ache, for example, and I was with them and then I would hang out and the
oh,
rest of the day, I would feel that way.
whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. Yeah, I haven't experienced that on that level. I've experienced knowing how someone feels, like being able to energetically, the empath in me that can do the
Yeah.
work that I do and have a sense of how someone is
Yeah.
emotionally feeling. But that, I could imagine that would be incredibly disorienting, disturbing, as you say, kind of make you feel raw if you're like, how do I
It
know if
is.
this is mine?
It is. And it made me very moody. And
I believe it.
right? Because I
Yeah.
think, you have beautiful boundaries. I mean, so I have a feeling you already know how to disconnect. At that time, I didn't really know how to disconnect. So just felt kind of like I was in this soup. And so it made me not really want to connect as much in the world. But it was
Mm,
very confusing, like you said, because you have these emotions going on and these feelings, and you're like, why do I feel sad? Why do I feel tired? And so and no one understands it. So you're trying to, and then I would find that I would, work out or do something that was joyful. And then all of a sudden it would like lift. So I started
hmm.
to see, oh, okay. It's kind of like, how when you kind of shake things off, it's like, oh, maybe shaking things off. But I still didn't understand that until years later when I actually got real training around releasing energy and understanding how to replenish your energy. But yeah, so it was confusing for a long time. And I was definitely moody up and down. Yeah.
Well, yeah, how could you not be given that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when I asked you to come be on Hey Wait with me, I asked you if you would come talk about energetic protection for highly sensitive people. And you were like, that is one of my absolute favorite topics to talk about. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm imagining it's one of your favorite topics to talk about because it's such a huge part of what you had to learn yourself. Because if you're saying you started in your early 20s being able to feel what other people were feeling at that level, and you didn't learn for at least another decade or so how to clear that,
Yeah.
that seems like that would be a very significant part of your story and existence.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was in my 20s, my late 20s, I went into body work. I started working and teaching as a massage therapist. And what I found was that the energy exchange, it was very good. It was very easy to find in people what was going on. And
Mhm.
when I left, again, I was feeling drained a lot of the time. And someone came up to me because I was thinking, I'm going to leave this profession because I'm just tired all the time. The same things are happening to me. And they said, well, you just don't know how to clear your energy. You're not having those energetic boundaries. And I thought, what? So I went, and I went to China to study medical qigong, and then I came back to go to acupuncture school and Chinese medicine school because I wanted to teach medical qigong, and I knew that I could not teach it well if I was
Mm.
not first a physician of Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So when I was going through school, it was the same thing, even though I was learning much more about the health of my body. So this is the thing: energetic protection and energetic hygiene. In the Chinese Eastern arts in medical Qigong and Chinese medicine, it's not about putting a big bubble around yourself. It's about your layers and levels in your body and how they're radiating. So it's about your nutrition and it's about how you're taking care of
Mhm.
yourself. It's about your sleep. It's about your boundaries. It's about understanding all of these different aspects of your health and how they actually create your, you can think of it as like your immune system, but we would look at it in terms of your energetic fields and how your energetic fields actually radiate from your body and how they hold a protection around you, which they do because everything from your energetic field comes from within you. So if you're tired or you're emotionally depleted, that's the field that you're radiating. Okay, so I had to learn that. I had to understand that. So the first thing is self-care. And what were you going to say there?
Oh, I got really intrigued to know what the layers are, because this is
So,
similar to yoga. They have 5 sheaths of the body that you work through the
mm,
layers of they're like dense energy to more, uh, light and spacious energy. I'm curious if it's similar.
it is similar. We look at it more of like how you're radiating, the layers of radiance. So meaning on a much more simple level is that if you are depleted, if you are not dealing with stuff that you need to deal with in your life, if you're very stuck, that's going to be the energy that is you are contained in. So it's not going to be very movable. It's not going to be very
Oh.
flexible. It's not going to be very vibrant. And so your protection of what's coming at you and how you're reacting and responding to life is going to be pretty much dimmed down because you don't really have that vitality. Okay. So the more vitality you have in your body, the more you are aware of things that you want to and need to heal in your life and you've come to resolve with that. So you are taking care of yourself. The more you radiate, the more your body is functioning in a very healthy way. So your energy is radiating in a stronger way, which is part of this energetic protection that you have as you're moving through your life. But then there are the mental understandings that you actually can determine and decide your boundaries. So one of the things, if you're highly sensitive and you're very empathic and you're picking up things, is you're moving through life and that's just how you're moving through life. And you don't really understand that you can separate yourself. You can decide to engage and you can decide to disengage. And also, if you've engaged, how do you clear that? And that was really the things, as far as medical Qigong, that is amazing at learning is when you learn techniques to clear your energy and they're physical techniques. There's movement techniques. I should say, if case anybody doesn't know what Qigong is, may I just say
I was
what it
gonna
is?
ask, like, take
Yeah,
a
so
detour and tell us what medical
because
qigong is.
that so
Thanks.
so so just to break it down, Qi means energy and Gong means practice or skill. And so if you are someone who is told you have a lot of Gong, it actually means it's a compliment. It means you have skill. So Qigong is the practice of moving vital energy in your body for health and well-being. There's health qigong, which can be general exercises that you do every day. And there's medical qigong, which are more prescribed. And so when you do medical
Hmm.
qigong, it's like if you injured yourself and you went to a physical therapist, you would be prescribed certain exercises to heal. Then you would be taken off those exercises and given something else. That's like medical qigong. So if someone comes in with a heart issue, for example, there are very specific exercises that I can give to them in order for that heart condition, blood pressure,
But
anxiety to
but
begin to regulate.
they're all energetic practices.
They're all energetic practices, but there's movement. So
There's
if you've ever seen Tai Chi, so Tai Chi is
Mhm.
a martial art and Qigong is not a martial art. Qigong is a healing art. So Tai Chi is a lot of different movements in a form. right? And a form means an imaginary practice against an opponent. So as you're
Oh, okay.
doing this, right, you're doing these forms, whereas Qigong are individual exercises, so individual practices that move the energy through the meridian systems in specific ways. So, for example, if you're dealing with lung issues, then we're going to be working with the lung organ, but we're also going to be working with the meridians that move through that organ. And so the more you learn Qigong, the better you can understand how the energy moves through your body, the more impactful it is. But you don't have to know the meridian system, but it's great if you have someone who can help you understand that
I
because your
love that.
mind, right, your mind moves your energy.
Right, and
So
if you have a picture in your head of what you're actually doing, it's more effective.
yes, exactly, exactly, and
Mhm.
you really target and can go right into what it is that you're wanting to work with. So, posture and breathing and your intention are what they call the 3 most important things in Qigong. So, you can do Qigong seated. I work with people who are in wheelchairs, I work with people who need to sit. Absolutely, you can, but the movements of Qigong distract the mind. So they not
Ooh,
only
I'm
allow the
here for that.
energy, right? Right? So they don't
Give me
only
some of
allow
that.
the well, because a lot of people try to do meditation and it's really difficult because their
Yeah.
mind is going all the time, right? So even though the movements are designed to move energy a specific way through your body and through the meridians and into the organs and activate breathing and all of those things,
Mhm,
they distract the mind because you're now focusing on your breath, you're focusing on relaxing, you're focusing on moving. And so the mental chatter in the mind starts to calm down. And
mm.
so this is why I love to teach people Qigong even before they start to meditate, because if they have a problem with the mental chatter, some people don't and they can just sit down and meditate and it's great. But if you're sitting down and
I'm
meditating and
making a
you're
face like, I
right.
don't know that person.
Oh, you're a good meditator. But if your mind is just going and going, it just frustrates the heck out of you to meditate. So
Yeah.
a lot of people think I can't meditate, but Qigong is a moving meditation. And so,
Well,
and it's a health benefit.
I'm so
Yeah.
aware as you're saying this that since Qigong is such an experiential art and practice, I'm imagining the listener going, "I want some." You know what I mean? Like, you're
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
how it calms the mind and how it's, all this movement of energy. I'm like, "Can we just experience some? Can you take me
Yeah.
through a practice that"
Yes. So I will take you through something because we're both seated here. So generally, right, a
Okay.
class, you're standing and you're moving around. But there's something that I've I've given to people, especially when they are getting ready to go into a meeting, or when I used to live in LA, I worked with a lot of actors and musicians. And so they're sitting in a waiting room, getting ready to go into an audition or an interview, and they cannot sit there and do these Qigong movements. It's crazy looking for them. So you can practice things that are very internal, and I'm going to move back here a little bit. You start with the movement of your arm, but you can learn to do it eventually without the arm and just your mind once you settle the mind. So this is called the falling leaf practice. And so what you want to do first is you want to picture leaves on a tree because you want to make this
Mm.
extremely real for yourself. That's very important. Remember, the intention, the focus is really important. So we're in the autumn right now, and this is like the perfect time. So just picture for a moment, how does it look when a leaf falls slowly from a tree? And if you're listening right now, I'm actually taking my hand and I'm moving it in a very fluid way coming down my body. So if a leaf is falling very slowly and I'm going to bring my arm out and I'm going to inhale as I bring my arm out and I'm keeping it close and I'm about at the top of my head and I'm going to close my eyes. And as I exhale, I'm going to move my hands so easily floating down the center of my body like a leaf that's falling down, all the way down until I'm going to bring my hand in my lap. And when we exhale longer than we inhale, it begins to calm the nervous system because we are telling the nervous system, you're safe. It's okay to breathe. And this is very, very important. So as you're just inhaling, raising the arm and then allowing the arm to fall and float down, your mind is actually allowing your energy to move down your body. And then I tell people, if you can breathe into your hips, not necessarily your belly, but your hips, breathe into your hips, in and out of your hips. And as you do that, your whole system is dropping. So it's really good to understand that when we get anxious, when we're upset, the energy in our body naturally begins to rise, especially if we're angry. And that's a normal movement of energy. But when we want to rebalance energy, we want the energy to settle. So when we do this
Mhm.
kind of breathing and visualization and just relaxing, we are training our energy to settle. Okay. So with that though, can I add one really important point to that? Because
Of course.
sometimes when I say that, and this is a big deal with when you're doing energetic clearing, we don't just say, oh, you feel an emotion, so then go to the other side of that emotion and calm it down.
Mm.
Energetic clearing is a lot of what we call chi dispersing movements, meaning there's a lot of shaking. We use sound, we use
Mm.
movements that move the energy out of the body. So if you're angry, we want to get that energy out of the body. And then we want to
And
restore
then you
it.
settle.
Yes, exactly. But sometimes you're in a situation, you're feeling a lot of anxiety and you need to root and ground yourself. And you
Mhm.
can become very comfortable with knowing, okay, I understand what's going on right now. And right now, the safest thing for me is to actually root and ground my energy and be settled.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to do that now. And then I'm going to pay attention to how I felt because later I'm going to go and clear and do the practices that I need to do, right, to deal with what's coming up, right?
Right. I wanna just go back and share my experience with the falling leaf practice.
Please.
W
Yeah.
1, I hear it in my voice.
Ugh.
My voice is now coming from my hips where I'm breathing from. Like, my voice got even deeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm just curious what it was like for the person listening too, because the moment you said before you even moved your hand, the moment you said, "Just imagine what a leaf looks like when it's falling," my jaw softened,
Oh,
my shoulders dropped. I mean, I wasn't aware that I was holding there, but it was like, "Bleh," in the
yeah.
good way, and then, um, it just moves me, and I think that's part of, um I've had a I've had a hard week, and the moment that everything settled, I just felt like the wateriness behind my own eyes and the sweetness of like, "Oh, it can be softer."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm smiling because I get so excited because it's so true. And I think and I know that you know this, but your listeners may not know this, that your mind doesn't determine the difference about what's going on right now and what is not. Meaning, if you give yourself an image, your mind will go with that image and will make it real for yourself.
Huh.
S Right? So if you picture this is why the intention and the focus is so important. And it's also why seeing images over and over again that are not
Mm.
constructive or helpful is very damaging because the mind doesn't, even though it was in the past, the mind takes it as this is happening right now. The nervous system says this is happening right now. Let me engage in protection. So we can do the opposite of that, where we say the mind now Let me go to this beautiful place. Let me picture this beautiful leaf that's falling so beautifully. And I'm noticing all the colors in the leaf, and I'm noticing the
Mhm.
shape in the leaf, and I'm noticing how it just floats down. Or you could use a feather. You can use anything that works for you, but it's the noticing. And it's the breathing and it's the
Mhm.
taking the time. And then the mind says, oh, this is where we are right now. We're in this
Mhm.
place right now. And so I can be here right now. And
Yes.
that's the difference when you start to understand how your nervous system works, how you can help yourself and support yourself. You're not trying to stuff anything down, but you're wanting to create the space for yourself. There's a lot of people I have found, and I've people who I work with, and also for myself, when you're a highly sensitive person, you move through life so differently than other people. You react and respond very differently, and many times we're trying to keep up with what we think is normal, and it's not
Yeah.
normal for us. We need to create space for
Could
ourselves.
you could you break that down a little bit more, like, flesh it out? Give me an
Mm,
example of what a how a
yeah.
highly sensitive person, maybe that you've worked with, has moved through life and what
Yeah.
changes when they
Yeah.
can.
So a lot of highly sensitive people and people who I've worked with, they you know, they're they try to engage at a level that is nonstop. And they think
Mm.
there's something wrong with them because they need to take a break, or they need to take something more slowly, or they need to restore their energy. So they'll go and go and go, and then they'll fall. They'll just like be
Mhm.
completely depleted. And then they'll blame themselves thinking there's something wrong with them, but they don't understand necessarily that their entire system is picking up energy at such a high level. Like they are constantly picking things up around them. Now, people do this in general, but a highly sensitive person and a highly, energetically sensitive person, as I call them, they are picking up information that other people are just kind of letting go by. And so if you have that overload of information
Mhm.
coming at you all the time, you need to create space for yourself and time to clear what you need to rest, to resettle, to discard. Because one of the best things, if I could say one of the best things for people to do if they wanted to just see if it made a difference for them, is to take the time, especially at the end of their day, to say, I'm going to let go of everything today that isn't mine.
Mm.
And you don't
And
have to consciously know what that is.
you don't have to consciously know. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you know that you got into an argument with someone, or that something really bothered you, and you can feel that there's a connection there. But if you just get into the habit of saying, I know that I engaged a lot today in a lot of different things,
Mm.
and we call it, cutting cords. So, sometimes we'll do a motion where we come down the center of our body like we're cutting a cord, but you don't have to do that.
I
The
like that,
again,
though.
the important part, yes, and the important part is that mentally, you are making the intention. You're creating the boundary, the intention to say, I release everything today that isn't mine.
Which
And
I'm
you're giving
imagining
yourself
is,
permission.
yeah, it's a permission, and then you don't get to the place of overwhelm because you're not carrying 63 days worth of
Yes.
energetic connections all over the place with you. Like, I
Yes.
I can feel that in my body as I talk about that, because I
Because
think.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut, but
Please.
your body is so intelligent that it knows what you should release today. It
Mm,
knows what you don't need. So
that's
it
true.
knows that, like, if you're carrying that person's emotion, that probably sparked something in you too, but you can release it, you can let it go.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay, so that made me think of energetic vampires.
Mm,
When you were
yeah,
mentioning being around other people, the sort of people who you don't have an equal energetic exchange with,
yeah.
because there's the and I guess part of that is an emotional thing, um, but talk to those of us who know exactly what I'm talking about when I say
Yeah.
energetic
Yeah.
vampire. What do you do around someone like
Yeah.
that?
So this is where you have to spend some time learning your own boundaries and really feeling authentically empowered in yourself. Because the thing about energetic vampires is they're able to kind of hook in to very weak spots in people. And it's that hook in that begins to pull the energy. So the more
Ooh,
consciously aware you are about how you're feeling, your alignment, how to hold your own space, because that's really what it is. It's that
oh, they
you
can't
are
get in.
learning. Yes, you're learning that you are allowed to hold space. You're learning you're allowed to take up space. And a lot of sensitive people are very sensitive and kind and giving. And this is where their boundaries kind of get a little bit fuzzy because they're out here in front of them. I'm gesturing out in front of me
Hmm.
instead of in
Hmm.
in themselves,
I'm like, I'm
right?
banging my head in a giant yes. Like,
And
yeah,
when you take that time and you're in yourself, you can
yeah.
breathe again, right? You're grounding your system, and then your energy naturally begins to expand and you hold space. And the moment someone who is an energetic vampire comes up against someone who is holding their space, there's not much they can do. And generally they'll leave or something will happen. They might try to instigate things because that's you get
Yeah.
somebody into a place where they're angry or they're upset. That's a great way to feed off energy. But as long
Uh-huh.
as you hold space, so that is maybe easy to understand, but it's not always easy for people to get there because they have to sometimes look at why do I not feel okay with holding my own space?
Well, as you were saying that, as you were talking about sensitive people not taking up space, I've never thought about it this way before, but I can understand how in myself and other people, if you feel like you are, like a sponge for everything you come in contact with,
Mm.
it would make sense to unconsciously get really small because then you think I will come in contact with less. I am more protected if I'm tiny and vapory because then I'm permeable or, I could
Yes.
imagine having the conscious thought of like, well, if I got bigger, it's only going to get worse. I'm just
Yes.
going to be like coming in contact and being a magnet for everything now.
Yes, but
But it's
that's
the
not what
opposite.
happened. Well, it's not what yeah, because when you contract your energy, right, you're going back to those layers and levels of radiance where when you
Uh-huh.
contract your energy, you're not as powerful, you're not as strong, you're not as protected because you're not holding that energetic boundary for yourself or that energetic radiance. When you begin to breathe, when you begin to expand your energy, when it's okay to take up space, you're activating now all of the energy flow through your body. So your body is now functioning at a higher level.
Mhm.
This is why
It
it's also about your health and about being able to hold that vitality.
is that what you've called in listening to your podcast before, is that what you've called energetic fortification?
Yes. So well, in medical qigong and Chinese medicine, there's three processes when we work with healing with someone. And the first is to which they call purging, but it's a releasing or discharging. Okay, purging can be a very hard word for people, but it's
Yeah.
getting rid of like you don't need. Okay.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you sweat out a cold, your body is purging. And
Mm,
so it's releasing the toxins. So we can do that emotionally too. We can release things that we don't need. And we can release our day that we don't need. And that's where
mhm.
the movement, shaking and the voice and things that activate. And then we have a fortification part where now we are tonifying. It's called tonifying, but you're bringing energy back into the body. So we use the energy in the body all day.
Mhm.
And we don't replenish the energy except through sleep. And some people are not sleeping as well. So
Mhm.
when you replenish the energy, now you're filling the cup again. You're filling your cup of energy again. And then the third part is regulating. So now we're making sure that everything in the body is
Ah.
balanced and regulated. So if you are lacking, for example, vitality in your system because you are depleted, you're dehydrated, you're emotionally dealing with something heavy, your fortification in the body, the strength of the body, is going to be a little weaker, which makes you
Mhm.
more susceptible to not being as well or very emotionally susceptible to what you might be dealing with out there. And then if you're a person who is highly sensitive, that could make things even bigger because now
Sure.
you're still sensing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that it's just about how are you fortifying the energy in your body. And that's where the practices come in, but also mentally. So if you're thinking thoughts that are not supportive of you, you're depleting your energy.
Right. It's not just food and rest, and it's what you're well, going back to the imagery too, because thoughts
Yeah.
go with images. So if you're
Yes.
constantly thinking something bad is gonna happen, you're playing a movie in your head that goes with that,
Yeah.
and then that becomes what's, communicated to yourselves, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the way
If
I
you're
would say
if
that.
you're constantly also thinking, putting like a lot of stress on yourself and saying you're not enough or I should be better, all of those hard things that we do to ourselves, that it really depletes energy. And once people begin to understand this, and then they understand that just really being super consciously aware is
Mhm.
energetic protection, then you can catch things and change things.
Being super energetically aware sounds hard. Meaning,
Yes.
like, I'm imagining the person listening going, I'm so busy. I'm so stressed to begin with. I'm already depleted. I'm already overwhelmed.
Mm.
And now I have to like be aware at this high level. I know that's not necessarily
Yeah.
what you're saying, but my
Yeah.
head can go there really easily.
Oh, it's a good
Um,
point. It's a good point.
um, the other place, and I'm just going to be honest, the other place my head can go in this is like, well, this is just all light and love and positive thinking and and I know
Yeah.
that's not necessarily bad, but like the East Coaster cynic, sarcastic person meaning it's like light and love, bleh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so, which I'm sorry, I
But
don't
see, though,
mean to.
but no, this is such a good point that you bring up because this is the thing. So, and this is so cool. This is so good, Jay, because the thing about medical qigong is that it's not light and love because you're
Good. Um,
activating doing these physical practices where you are truly tapping into the body and you are strengthening the physical body as well as the energetic body. So it's
so
not about
it's
sitting
like
around.
solid.
Yes,
It's
yes,
real.
it's very solid because when you actually do medical qigong, one of the things that it does is it activates growth hormone in the body, and your system
Mm.
becomes stronger depending on how you're standing, how you're moving, how you're breathing. So it's an energetic and physical workout for the body. And the byproduct of that is that you have much stronger boundaries, you have much stronger health, and you are energetically protected. You do also open up a lot of your intuitive gifts when you practice Qigong regularly, which I don't
Yes.
know if that is scary as well, but that
Oh,
is
I
part of the
love that.
conscious awareness,
No, I
right?
love that. I mean, my master's degree was on helping people find their intuition. I think I want to have you back another time to talk about the link between medical qigong and intuition because
That would be
this is
great. Yeah.
it's so important. It's such a huge part about what you teach because there's the, going back to what you were saying in the beginning, people come to a practice at the physical level. Same with
Yeah.
yoga. They would always come in, I want to be stronger, more flexible. I want to have a fitter body.
Mm.
But then they get to the energetic and the spiritual and the mental and emotional, all those different levels that come with it. And I think you would agree with me. I think one of the major points for why to do any of these practices that gets to these different layers of your body are so that you can have more connection to your intuition, your deeper knowing, that clarity. Um, like that's kind of the point. Other than
It
health
is.
and well-being, the point is, to me, I think being able to live in a place where, in a state where I feel like I have that alignment to Mm, my deepest knowing, I
Yeah.
mean, I want that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's really w it's really what it does for you, and you put in the practice to do that. But I wanna also go back because I don't think I really answered your question about when you said, "I'm thinking about the person out there who might be thinking, well,
Right.
to be more consciously
Thank you.
aware, right? It's overwhelming." So and that's difficult for me because for me, I'm the opposite in the sense that I feel safer the more aware I am. So
Mm,
I feel like being consciously aware means that I'm seeing things and sensing things. And this does go with intuition too, but just to be consciously aware, I'm seeing things from a broader view. I'm not just engaged with exactly what's in front of me, but I'm expanding my awareness. And so I feel more prepared. I feel more like I don't get as sucked in as I used to things. I used to get
yeah,
very sucked in to whatever was going on, and I think especially, like, right now with what's going on in the world, it's really
yeah.
nice to have a little bit of that expansion. So, it's not about being so consciously aware that you're picking on everything, it's about having kind of a broader view is maybe how I think about it.
Yeah, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking, oh, this isn't about conceptual awareness. This isn't about nitpicking your internal world, which I think a lot of people, when they hear the word awareness, think about conceptual awareness. I'm thinking about myself. I'm analyzing the
Yeah.
experience. What you're saying is embodied awareness. You're saying soften your edges. You're saying get um like turn on the felt sense that's on the back side of your body as well as on the front side of your body, as the side of your body, so you have some like sense, like literally sense of yourself.
Yes.
Is
Yes,
that
and this
true?
yes, and you said it so beautifully. I'm so grateful for that, and it made me think of Mr. Moon, your husband, and you had said in the beginning, that maybe not everybody understands the energy, but people understand that. They understand having awareness around them,
Mm,
and especially depending
yeah,
on different people's jobs. Like, for example, a police officer understands awareness. They
yeah.
have a conscious awareness of every single thing that's going on around, and that keeps them very safe. So I love what you said about, the front of you, the back of you, the sides of you. And that is a conscious awareness. And that is also energetic protection. And that's also expanding your energy to be alert and aware. And if you contract, sometimes you do need to contract your energy. Like this is something that sometimes we'll work on in classes that I teach is how do you expand your energy and how do you contract your energy and when is it
Mm,
appropriate to do so? So for
mhm.
example, for a person who is highly sensitive, it's appropriate to contract your energy as you're going through the airport. It's
Oh,
right?
amen.
Right? You don't need to be
We're
all
zipping
the way
this
out
shit up
there.
right now as we're going. That's
Exactly.
yep.
Exactly. It's so if you start to look at energy that way and you start to look at how your body is an antenna
Yeah.
and you it starts to become
Mm,
fun where you say, "Oh, I
mm.
see. I have control in this moment to expand my energy or contract my energy or focus in on something or focus wider on something." It becomes a game, but it becomes a fun game. Does
Yes,
that
and
make more
as
sense
yes,
in the
I
whole
love that.
scheme of things? Yeah.
Yes, to make it fun, make it a game, because I'm also thinking as we're, recording this, when this publishes, it'll be just right before the beginning of the holiday season,
Oh, yeah.
and the
Mhm.
holiday season is travel, it's family, it's onslaught of buying and shopping and all the things, or trying not to, it's so much,
Yeah.
especially during a time of year, which we hear this all the time. This is a time of year where it is about slowness and stillness and darkness, and that is not what's happening.
Uh-uh.
So I'm imagining w taking this invitation to play with your
Yeah.
energy through that season, through all those interactions, through being at the grocery store the day before Thanksgiving. Like
Yes, and to give yourself permission to pause. Like, this is a
Mhm,
good example too. You play, but also it's okay that you're not running a million miles an hour, because
mhm,
your system doesn't necessarily function well on that. Nobody's system functions well on
mhm,
that. But if you're someone who is more energetically aware to begin with, you're going to need more time to pause. And that's okay. Because generally, when you do that, your life goes much smoother. You don't have all of the dramatic stuff that comes up, and you don't make mistakes. So,
mm,
giving permission that it's okay that I slow down, it's okay that I understand that I'm actually, like you mentioned, going against nature's rhythm right now. I
mhm,
have a big thing about that here in the West. We are really this is the time, the autumn and the winter, where we're supposed to go very deep inside. And it is the time we're here where we're engaging and creating, and then the
mhm.
new year people are supposed to do things, and that really goes against the energetic flow.
Yeah,
So that's another part of being consciously aware, of just understanding that right now I'm living in a world, in my world here, where they say I'm supposed to be doing this and this and this, but my energy actually wants to rest and restore, so that I can be very forward motion and moving and creative in the spring. That's
right.
how it's set up. So just that's another part of being consciously aware. And so how am I going to move through my activities?
Yeah.
What can I take away? What do I need to engage in? And how do I need to engage in it?
I
Like
just
you
wanna
said, have fun with the expansion and the contraction, but it does
yeah.
take a little thought. You need to look at things a little bit differently sometimes when you're working in this way. It's giving yourself permission to stop and say, "Okay, I have this really big family event coming up, and how can I plan so that I am as rested and calm as I can be when I show up?"
And fortified.
And fortified, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that
I'm
might
saying that
mean
as
that
I
you
take
do
my
things
arms
different.
out wide.
Yes, yes, right? Because otherwise, what happens, most people are really
Mm.
tired during these things, and they're trying to be happy and very sensitive, and there's all of these different emotions go on. Sometimes you're very lucky and you're with family that you really love, and some people have families that are really difficult. So you're dealing with all of these different dynamics, but if you take time to think about it ahead of time, in how could I do this differently this year? It's amazing, the little
Yeah.
tweaks.
Well, the good news is you have so much content out there for people to learn from you. I mean, listener, Maria is one of the most generous people when it comes to providing free content and teachings and practices. It's at your website, right? The Art of
Yeah,
Tuning In.
yeah, it's, theartoftuninginc.com, and, yeah, there's lots of things there, and
Lots.
I have a podcast as well, and in those podcasts, I try to share little tips and tools. And so, but there's a membership as well, and the membership is only for women. I work privately with men and women in private sessions, but the membership is for women, and it's because we work with the women's health system,
Hmm.
so the women anatomy, and that's where we do a lot of qigong, a lot of restorative practices. We work with intuition. So yeah, there's stuff, and I do teach an energetic protection 101
I was just gonna ask when
course,
the next
yeah.
one of those is.
It's gonna be in February, of
Okay, great,
2026. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say
great.
January, but it's always better when we start these in February. So, and there's a
Yeah.
waiting list. You can go to the website
Oh,
and
good.
you can sign up for it, and then you the waiting list just says you can receive information. You're not committing to anything. You just get to learn more about it.
And the
It's
course again
great.
is called Energetic Protection 101.
Yes, and it's a 3-month
Perfect.
course, and it's live with 25 hours of also pre-recorded information. So I teach live, but there's also a beautiful library of
Yeah.
information, and it's been great. It's one of my favorite things to teach because people really like just the last time I taught this class, there was a woman in there who is in a physician of Chinese medicine, and she really understood about being energetically sensitive, and you're
Hmm.
working with clients, patients all day long. And she just took one of the tools that we taught there and she decided, I'm going to commit to this and I'm going to do this throughout my day and between my patients whenever I can. And she said her energy level, she couldn't believe like how her energy level just went up and how she wasn't as depleted at the end of the day. So I say that because it doesn't take a lot.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, I don't have time to do this, or I can, adding one more thing, but you're not really adding, you're choosing to do these little things that nourish the body. And then you realize, oh, that's not
Yeah.
that hard. And you feel so good.
Because it replenishes, rejuvenates
Yeah.
in the doing of it. So
Yeah.
it's not a taking practice, it's a giving practice.
Yeah. Because we're not taught that, Jay, we're not taught to
Mhm.
replenish,
Mm-mm.
really. It's
Mm-mm.
if you take a nap or something, some people are taught that that's a lazy thing to do, and it's like the most wonderful thing in the world. But so it all depends, right? Like I grew up, my father is amazing. He was very hard worker, and he loved what he did, which was great because that's a great combination. But he thought naps were lazy because that's how he
Mhm.
was trained. So
Mhm.
I grew up feeling very guilty about that. But the truth is
Mhm.
that if I don't take a nap or do a little meditation or something through my day, I don't function, but he and I are built very differently. So, right, so
Exactly.
we have to work with that in our mind of
Yep.
what we've been taught and how does that really work for us now.
Yes. Agreed. That's kind of the point of this podcast, right? Like, let's say, "Hey, wait," to the things that we've been taught and conditioned and been like, "Is this actually working for who I am and how I'm built and my insides?" So,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to you for sharing this. I do wanna ask you my final question that I ask
Yes.
everyone, which is well, it's I'm actually really curious to hear your answer because 'cause I'm curious to hear if it is a practice from Qigong or if it's something else that you do to help stay with yourself when you're with other people.
It is a practice from Qigong in the sense of what I've learned from Qigong. So, when I'm with other people or I'm going into group, I am I can be very hesitant, to be honest. So I'm very
Mhm.
extroverted when I'm teaching and happy but I feel my energy get very hesitant. So what I do is I go in my body and with my mind similar to the leaf, but I go down from the top of my head all the way down through the center of my body, through my root chakra, down my legs and into the earth, and I anchor myself. And I breathe into my hips like I was doing
Mm,
before. And that is I've done this for so long that it's kind of second nature now, but it's a signal to me. It's a reminder to me to be in myself rather than out.
yes.
And that started when I was in acupuncture school and there was a teacher there who I highly respected. And I was having a lot of trouble because of all the stress. And he said to me, well, you know that when you walk around, I've watched you and your energy is all out in front of yourself. It's like you're chasing yourself as you're walking. And
I'm raising my hand because 'cause I'm like,
and
"This is
at
my
first,
practice."
I was so offended at first because I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then but I really, really respected him, and so I knew that there was something in there. And then he just kind of walked away, and like kind of let it land. And so I did this practice where it just kind of came up, where I was sitting in my car at a traffic light, and
Mm.
I would watch people cross the street because it's sometimes it's not very comfortable to cross the street, and I just started to notice people's energy out in front of them like they were
You could
chasing
see it.
themselves. They weren't rooted grounded. And as soon
Mhm.
as I saw it, I went, "Oh, like, I really got it." And so that was a big instigator for me to learn how to, instead of being out of my body, to
Yeah.
step in and then be present. And it took a while. It does. It takes some practice, but it's like it's this muscle energetic memory. And then
Yeah.
when I find myself reaching out or find myself leaning in too much, I'll go, right, let's come back. And it's just
Love
a
that.
thing I do mentally, quietly, talk myself through. It helps a lot. I mean, a lot helps, if I'm in
Oh
a
my
relationship with my husband and we're in a conversation, come back, or even before I go into that conversation, come back. So yeah, it's kind of a
well, I
coming.
am 100% with you, Maria. This is my main practice too, I would say, because I am one of those people who it's really easy for me to be chasing myself energetically. And it is what I do all day, every day. It's like, oh, wait, like, hey, wait, come
Yeah.
back, bring this back right down. And I love the way you described it. I don't know that I have it in my practice where I actually go in and down. I think I just come in. So I really like that addition of bringing your energy back into the center of you, like right behind your eyes, and then let it go all the way down. That feels really good.
For me, if I don't go all the way down, it doesn't change my breath.
Mm,
So I have to go all the way down to my hips and then through my legs and into the earth. And because then I feel a relaxing area here where the solar plexus are, in
mhm,
just below the chest there in the middle. Um, and because that's also my main sensing part, I sense there
mm,
a lot. So if that doesn't relax in me, then I can't center.
yeah,
So, yeah.
mm,
But that makes a
ah,
lot of sense, Jay, because you are one of the most rooted, grounded people that I have met. I mean, because I've seen you in person, right?
oh, yeah.
And
I
right, so I
actually
can say
I do
that.
think
I can
about it now
absolutely
that I
say
know
that.
what you do, I'm like, "I
Yeah.
wonder what Maria thinks about my energy."
No, you're so rooted and grounded. I mean, it makes so much sense, and
Mm,
yeah. But that is something
mm,
that people could do right today, is they could
yeah,
just practice coming back in and
right, and
how
right
that
now.
feels. Yeah.
Like, I love asking this question at the end because it seems like an invitation for all of us when we, you and I press stop record, or the person listening presses stop and goes on. It's one last way before we disperse to reconnect, get back inside, and hopefully take yourself with you into what you're doing next. Because I need this reminder 129 times a day, so I'm assuming I'm not the only person.
No, I need it, and I sometimes I'm so grateful to that, I've been able to, like, do this work as a profession, because honestly, it
Mhm.
is difficult if you don't have that going on to remember.
It
You
is.
need to surround yourself with people who support this type of work and
Yeah,
who are a community, because it is a different way of thinking. It is a different way of moving through
being.
life.
Yeah. Well, so listener, check out theartoftuninginCom because there is a lot there for you to be immersed in. And I also wanna just go back a few 10 minutes ago or so. Dr. Maria Furlano gave you permission, but I'm gonna say prescription, that you get to slow down, you get to pause. So I want you to also remember that you get to pause in the rest of your day, the rest of the week, the rest of the season, the rest of this year, because I think we all needed that prescription. Thank you. um, and thank you again, dear Maria, dear radiant Maria, who is the best advertisement for what you do,
Oh,
just in who you are. Thank you for being
oh,
here.
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you so much, listener, for being here today. I hope something resonated with you and helps you to have a good experience of yourself in your life and your relationships, because you really do deserve that. And if someone came to mind while you were listening today, could you take a moment and share this episode with them right now? And if you haven't had a chance to yet, please leave a review for Hey Wait, because both of those things help new people find the show. And it means a lot to me to be able to reach and connect with new people around this work. With that, if you have an idea for a guest or a topic, or you have a question for me, feel free to reach out to me at Hey Wait with Jay on Instagram. Hey Wait is produced by Viv at First Click VA, and the original music is by Dalton Grant. And hey wait, before we go, I want you to remember your insights matter, and the right people will meet you there. So stay with yourself, and I'll see you next time.